Hello, welcome to the Powerful Marketing Tips podcast. This is where we empower marketers. I am our host, Marilis Vaher, and today we are tackling a topic that sits, I would say, at the very heart of business survival nowadays. It's building this brand resilience and trust in the era of AI. And we have all seen the AI-generated content flooding our feeds, right? Leading to a global, I would say, digital trust crisis even. The big question, at least for me, is, how to stay authentic when everyone is using the same algorithms, right? And today I'm very happy to introduce Gal Borenstein for you, who is founder and CEO of the Borenstein Group. And he's also an author, Don't Believe the Hype When Trust is on the Line book. So, Gal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I love that your work focuses on the human relationship behind the brand, because as I said, in a world of automation, I think trust is our only true, let's say, competitive advantage today, right?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the challenges that we're seeing, and the visible challenges that we have with trust today, are being force multiplied, if you will, becoming like a virus, if you will, of its own in corporate America and corporations around the world, whereby you're being rushed into check the box of being innovative. And if you don't have an AI bot or an agent, as you call it now, built in your organization, let's say your CRM or your sales or your operations, you seem to be kind of like an elephant from the past that should be retired. And that's really kind of backward thinking. The single most important thing in building kind of a successful company in today's environment really starts by asking the question is, what are your company's values? What are your business objectives? And then it all wraps around, from my perspective, just branding and marketing for companies, especially technology and service companies that have to interact with a lot of people versus one-off products, if you will. It really is, what's your compass? Do you have a compass when it comes to trust? And in my research for the book, and also based on talking to a lot of CEOs over almost 30 years of running an agency, I found very often that the waters are really murky. They're not really kind of defined well. So, for example, a company could be great in its technology, but it doesn't take any consideration into the idea that if you want the company to grow, you got to have management that believes in the same thing. And the same thing could be from 0 to 10. One could be at a 3, one could be at a 5, and 4 could be at an 8, and 2 could be at a 10. But if they don't communicate the signals of trust in the boardroom, that basically goes to the next level, which is the middle management and the individual departments that you can imagine run a corporation. For example, human resources is looked upon as what? As the organization that recruits people and handles the benefits. But imagine that you're recruiting by saying, our company is the fastest, our company is the best in the world. And that's what you put in your recruitment ad. And then a Gen Zer that was born with an iPhone that get their news from social media goes on social media like Glassdoor or Trustpilot or any of the sites and basically looks at a bunch of negative reviews that says, no, the culture here sucks. The company does not appreciate young people. They don't give them an opportunity, which is completely opposite of might be the truth or just a disgruntled employee. But corporations are ignoring it or think that that just kind of like will go away. And then what happens is Google and, the 1% that are on Bing would basically see the information about the company as part of the description in an AI generative environment. So if you wanted to learn about your show or my show or my book, you go to Google and type, Don't Believe the Hype, Gal Borenstein, the book, and then you will see reviews, you'll see different things, but now AI is part of the search engine. So it makes it 10x faster to create falsehoods and correct information. The biggest thing is we used to own the narrative, and the narrative was the story that we want to tell to the outside world. And companies could have a secret. that this is their narrative and just use it whenever they wanted to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. What do we have now? We don't control the message anymore because our message is directed based on what we know internally. But if we do not have the employees on board, if we don't have the stakeholders and influencers in the marketplace on board and the social media sites on board and have all this kind of external third-party validation point, that's really where the breakdown is happening.
There was so much in it already. And I'm just thinking where to start. Maybe we should start with why does this happen? I mean, is it natural that we just want to have this, I don't know, easy win when we start using AI? And is it like a flashy idea that the AI will come and do everything for us and we don't need to do anything? So why do you think, where does it come from? Let's talk about why we're so eager, in using that in a wrong way.
Yes. And, the short answer is FOMO, essentially fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Anybody who's in the kind of an economy that is what we call the knowledge worker economy, if you're, for example, in a plumbing business, there are things that you have to do to maintain the quality of the work. And at the end, the faucet works or it doesn't. If you're working for an energy company, the power works or it doesn't. There's not a lot of beyond a binary choice, if you will. But when it comes to being perceived as part of the innovation, part of the business, so you can differentiate it and increase productivity, the pre-AI generation, essentially, of management was relying more on really kind of subjective point of views that were not really validated other than sales. And then by the time you measured it, the sales, flopped or the sales were successful, you lost the point of why it did it or not. And analyzing postmortem basically gave way to building customer relationship management systems to companies like Salesforce, like HubSpot, all these different companies that basically brought analytics into it and intelligence into it. But for most company, now you had all these machines that were kind of semi-autonomous in the sense of you're feeding them information, but they were dumb. They had a lot of data, just the way you could have like in the back of your building, a dumpster. And all that data basically means nothing unless it means something and is directed to do the right thing for your company. So what changed is we used to look at data as something that we should live with and get more productive. AI produces answers that are typically better than most human are able to process in minutes and in seconds. And that basically creates fear among executives, which are thinking, well, if this can do my job that quickly, I might get fired or I might be irrelevant, which is even scarier for people. And the second is really, how do you also use AI to actually achieve business objectives? And now, yes, AI can basically become another employee in your company that can learn really quickly through machine learning how to give you the answers in the style that you want to get it. Even get your tone of writing, your voice of writing, anything that really matters. And people are adopting it, but for the wrong reason, which is one of the points that I'm making in the book. It really is the fact that AI is still a robot, and a robot can process the big data information a lot quicker. And you might be able to steer them to function in a certain way. For example, if it was a human being, you tell them to run, to bake a cookie. It doesn't matter what, there's a robot that would do that. But what you can't replace is human judgment and the ability to actually make decisions when it comes to services, especially in consulting and most things that basically require a conversation with a prospective a customer or a client are really connected directly to not how much brain power we put into it and how much data we collected. It's how did we build it to really create a point where we can make cultural decisions, company value decisions that go along with it. And at the end of the day, if you're releasing something and you think, oh, AI created it, all I have to do is click here. What's happening, and this is a true story that I'd like to share with your listeners if time allows. We all get now emails from AI companies that says, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, and half the time, half the money, and they're junk mail, basically, or junk email. And I know when I get it because it's very easy to tell that that's the case. And I get hundreds of them, so it's easy to see. One day I got an email about 2 weeks ago. I got an email from one of these companies that says, we're a sales automation company. We can build an agent for you, an AI that will replace or expand 5 seats of business developers in your company. Well, it sounds great, right? But it says, dear blank, Mr. That's the first line. And then the rest of the story comes below. Obviously, my name is missing, my title is missing. And then the second line is, because we know this and that about your company, which came from AI research and was accurate actually about 2 clients that we work with, they use that as a way to kind of continue. The problem is, in the day before AI, we could control the quantity of what we're doing. And there was a quality assurance mechanism. Doesn't matter, it was working 100% of the time, but there was a person that basically read and proofed what was going out. What is going on now is because everybody's using AI to look innovative and to say, hey, now we can push 100,000 emails to 100,000 people. What's happening is when you make a mistake, it mass replicates itself into a complete collapse of credibility. Because if you're an executive in a company and you get something like that, how will you ever take that company seriously? Even if they apologize and say it was a mistake, the trust of your brand already has been eroded dramatically. So it's really, the difference is are you using AI to actually advance what you're already good at? Or are you basically looking at it as fear of missing out? I'm just doing it because everybody else is doing it and I don't want to look irrelevant. And that's the wrong answer.
I love fear of missing out I love that you brought that up, because this is something I talk very often with marketers, also in my book. And I'm always telling them that you should be more chasing, joy of missing out, not the fear of missing out, because this is the only way how you can focus, on your own strengths and and then take AI as an efficiency partner, right? And start using that in a right way. And I love the example you just brought, because I also get a lot of these emails nowadays, and I'm always thinking, if something, looks too good to be true, then it probably is. Because no one can, do magic for my business besides myself, who knows the business the best.
Absolutely.
Right? So it even looks like sometimes I think, how naive you think I am if you're sending me these emails, right? But
and
I
that's
understand.
the thing.
Yeah.
They're not thinking that you're naive. AI basically logically placed you in a group of people that should be communicated with. That's a human mistake. That's not an AI mistake.
Exactly. It's a human mistake, and it all comes down to the very quick wins, meaning they are not into building any relationship with you. They are just playing with numbers that if I were to send out 1,000 email, probably 1% of them will convert. So that's a pity. And I think that's why we are in a very big trust issue, right?
Yeah. And to kind of bring back something that we kind of started the conversation on, what is the concept of trust? People think that it's really kind of just the trust me. The biggest joke in sales is always, trust me, I'm in marketing, or trust me, I'm in sales. That's basically a very kind of sarcastic way of telling salespeople that nobody trusts them, which is not true. They are trusted once they create a relationship with a person on the other side, because people buy from people, even when they buy technology or services. But the biggest thing is we're moving into an era where trust is becoming transactional versus human-centric based. So corporate culture is replaced by transactional interactions online. When you ask employees, for example, here's a survey about how are we doing as a company, and it's anonymous, but it goes through the company's survey mechanism. How can employees trust that the information that they're giving in that survey is really going to be looked upon with confidence and with actually respect? The answer is they don't. In fact, one of the stats that exists right now in the market is that over 70% of people do not believe their company's management.
Oh.
70% start their day by, if you ask them, do you trust your management? Do you trust your leadership
Mhm.
in your company? And that also happens in politics, but in politics, at least you have kind of the pendulum swings every few years. But when you're a company and your trajectory is to grow, because if you don't grow, you're in stalemate, or you die, or you get acquired by somebody smarter that knows how to get it to grow. If your own employees don't trust your company, you have to ask the question, what
Mhm.
are the things that make them not trust it? And the answer to that is to build an ecosystem, number one, where management trusts each other. Because if the executive management team doesn't believe that, for example, the product attribute or the service attribute of the company, that's what differentiates us, that's really kind of where it all starts. So in my book, I talk about creating an ecosystem that I call the Guardian, which basically asks that question. Have everybody in that executive management group use that framework to really start by saying, do we all believe in the same thing? And then even
Mm.
if we don't believe in the same thing, let's benchmark it and create a trust matrix within the company. And then take it to market and ask the employees and prospects, do they see it the same way and independently? And then bring it together so the CEO and the executives of the company can make a determination that this is not working or this isn't working really well. Instead, we have a
Mhm.
lot of obfuscation based on that fear that if the CEO knows or finds out that, the factory workers don't believe in the company, their head is going to blow up, if you will. So that is a big thing that needs to happen. And then when you go to media, even in the media, the trust level in one of the, I think it was Gallup survey that just came out, only 30% of the media is being trusted. It doesn't matter
Mm.
what media, because everything is on social media now that creates an echo chamber. And in the echo chamber, you also only hear yourself and you don't get any other perspective. In fact, it just reinforces what you already know, and they feed you more information that is about what you already
Mhm.
know. It just validates you. And who doesn't want to be validated? The
Mhm.
problem is it does not allow you to create a relationship with another person that has a different opinion, bring more facts to the table, maybe, or at least you can contest their facts. You can have opinions, but as we know, you're entitled to your opinions, but there's
Mhm.
still facts that have
Mhm.
to control it. So if we don't trust the media and we don't trust our leaders in companies, that basically permeates in middle management and then goes all the way to the most junior employee that you just hired. And then they go outside to social media, to places like Fishbowl on Glassdoor that has more kind of a water cooler discussion between people. And that's the brand of the company now. So to keep the brand resilient, you have to really start by enforcing the internal mechanism of
Mhm.
knowing that trust is not transactional. Trust is how your brand survives.
I really love this because I truly believe myself also that people work with people, and we people talk to people, and we people don't buy from businesses, they buy from people.
Absolutely.
And I believe that the word of mouth is the strongest nowadays, especially the more AI, the more robots are coming, the less we trust those machines, and the more we need those authentic relationships. And now I didn't know about this survey that 70% of employees don't trust their leaders. Oh my God, that's huge number. And of course, we don't trust social media. This is not a secret, right? But the leaders should really think about how to gain more trust, and how internally make sure that the people are all aligned. I mean, we go outside, we talk to people anyways, even if we are not intentional about it, right? People ask, doing and things like that. Even the everyday emotions, they count, right?
Absolutely. And it reminds me of a quote that um, has always been kind of something that I looked upon.
Mhm.
It's by Warren Buffett, and I'm one of the richest men in the world
Mhm.
and well-respected financier
Mhm.
and stock market guru. And one of his famous saying, I'm paraphrasing, so it might not be perfectly aligned with what he actually said, but the point being is it takes 20 years to build a reputation, and it takes 5 minutes to lose it.
Mhm.
And that basically parlays itself into a brand of a company. So imagine, a very successful company that gets hit with lies, with financial reports that are inaccurate
Mhm.
or misleading, skirting, the very kind of fringes of the line of between truth and kind of authenticity, if you will. That destroys companies. And it doesn't take a
Mhm.
lot for that to happen. And what has changed is we're talking and having the same conversation before COVID, disconnected the word from having individual transactional, and we all went to now to
Mhm.
video, and most people don't even want their face to be seen on video. And that's a huge challenge right now in big corporations. They say you got to get on a call via video. We don't have phones anymore in the office, so it's only your cell phone, and you have to dial through your desktop. But people don't want to be seen necessarily on video, even if it's their own team, because they have a reason.
Mhm.
It could be a personal reason, it could be a psychological
Mhm.
reason, but
Mhm.
when you force them, you don't get the information that you need. So going back to that um, quote that I mentioned, the other quote that is really kind of relevant to what we're talking about is what is branding and what basically it means in the real world. And it comes from Jeff Bezos of Amazon that said essentially branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And it's very simplistic, but at the same time, it's genius
Mhm.
because it means that, for example, what Amazon did so well and made it into the monster that it is right now, where it's everywhere, whether you're renting movies to books to buying diapers, whatever it is that you're doing, Amazon is now that platform, is that they instituted that reviews process that started giving people some empowerment in having an opinion. And number two, what it did is created the intimate customer experience that was lost when bookstores started becoming Walmart type size organizations and hired a very low wage college student or high school student to be the person that talks to people that come into the store. And in the old
Mhm.
times, right, we went into a bookstore and we asked, what's the latest book? Tell me about it a little bit, or give me 3 ideas for a book that will entertain me. That basically disappeared. Instead, you had
Mhm.
people that just taking your credit card. Where does that knowledge and relationship go? It was recreated in the digital world. And
Mhm.
that's what made Amazon grow, is that it doesn't matter what the product was. The product could still get low ratings, but people believe that, well, if it has 100 reviews and the other guys had 2 reviews, which one would I pick? People picked the safest choice,
Mhm.
not the best choice necessarily.
Yeah, that's true. We need that social proof. And I'm also using that same quote about the branding myself. So thank you for bringing that on the table. But since you were already putting on the table some great quotes, I know that you also have a very special offer to our listeners, because I'm sure that now they already are interested about your book, because these are very insightful numbers that you brought up. And I believe that we should all learn more about it, how to work smarter, not harder, while using AI and not losing the trust. So please share with us, where can we find the book and what is the offer?
Well, the easiest of finding the book is you can go to Google and type Don't Believe the Hype by Gal Borenstein, which will
Uh-huh.
lead you to Amazon.com, just a place where you can buy the book.
Uh-huh.
And I do also encourage people to interact with me directly via LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really nice place where you can exchange ideas. Your mailbox does get flooded now with a lot of the same junk emails that before, and people that pretend to know that you are who you are. So I invite your listeners and viewers to really kind of use LinkedIn to connect with me. I rarely say no unless it's a fake profile or it's easy to kind of notice that it's, they're asking something that doesn't exist or will never exist. And I have a special offer also to the podcast, to the first 10 people that do reach out, receive a free version of the book, Don't Believe the Hype. And if they have questions, I'll be happy to answer them offline because this topic is very timely, but also very daunting to especially the middle management and executive management, where you've proven yourself for 30 years on a job. And suddenly a 22-year-old comes to your office with all due respect and tells you, you are irrelevant, you're obsolete, and for all the wrong reasons, not the right reasons, because machines don't make the difference. If I may, another kind of thing that I share with most people that I talk to, especially management, is don't get scared of AI. If you've been around for 20 years or 30 years in the workforce, do you remember when fax machines basically were the thing that would kill the copying industry? And before that, there were voicemail, and especially law firms as a sector refused to use voicemail because there was no software that allowed them to bill for voicemail. So they saw it as a big nuisance. And in fact, they thought, if I call my client and say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, now I have to bill them for 15-minute increments of an hour as legal experts do. So there's always an industrial revolution that changes things. But if you see what's consistent across all these things, voicemail, email, fax, interactive voice response, all the way to having agentic, it goes back to one thing, which is innovation without thinking, without emotions, without sound judgment is just causing you to mass replicate a problem. It's not solving anything.
That's really good. Thank you. For the special offer also for our listeners, and we will add this link to your book also next to this episode, so people can really find the book and also the LinkedIn account. And since you already shared the quote, I will ask about the song as well, because we have our own song list in Spotify, which is really interesting. But very quickly about, using AI as a marketer, because we are here emphasizing AI as an efficiency tool for the marketers. And we are all about how to work smarter, not harder with marketers. And the way we usually approach is that we tell them to approach AI the same way as you are onboarding, a new team member. You need to you need to really teach them well. You need to really prompt them well and ask questions. How was it? How you get this? And take it as, somebody you are always guiding and teaching, and you are still the strategist. You are still a leader. But as you said, that AI cannot do magic for us, but it can help us be much more productive and much more efficient on our daily jobs, right? So it
Absolutely.
will take my job away, but it changes a little bit. But still, I just want to say for the marketers that don't worry, it will help you. It's not here to take away your job, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. So really quick heads up for the listeners also that my new book, The Greatest Marketer, is also out. I know that you know that, but I am starting to host those free book hour virtual sessions, because we also want to be there for our hub members and also for the guests. So you can always join us at thegreatestmarketer.com under Access Resources, and I will see you there in person. But now, Gal, please share with us a song that will go to our Spotify list from your side, and maybe why that song inspires you. What's the story?
Well, I have many songs that always kind of are in my mind, but the one that kind of touches me growing up with liking hip hop music actually is Eminem's song, Lose Yourself. And it's basically about, a struggle of somebody who's trying to kind of find themselves in the world, and they don't belong to either worlds, and they're trying to kind of make their own brand, if you will. But what it really is about is that if you get people to define who you are, you're going to lose. You need to be the one who defines the story and then create artifacts of trust that make you relevant and make you acceptable to a new world that wasn't there before. So knowing kind of the Eminem story and then listening to the song, it really kind of makes you think, it's really interesting that, the name of the song is Lose Yourself. Well, in reality, it's kind of immerse yourself and find and grow your own path. So that's the one that I kind of like about the music, but it really has a good story to it.
Yeah, I love it. I used to love Eminem 20 years back or something, right? So it's been a long time. Thank you for reminding me that. It's a great song. Very good. So, Gal, how would you wrap it up for today, for the listeners here today? I mean, it's a huge topic. And of course, we only touched like the tip of the iceberg, right? So maybe some final words so that the listeners wouldn't feel so bad about believing the hype, maybe?
Yeah. I'm going to use another quote actually that I think about almost every day and apply to it, which is number one, you don't have to fear AI. You need to basically accept a new employee from a different land that you're basically onboarding into your organization and has a very good skills that could be incorporated into the company. The quote that is in my mind is from Albert Einstein. He was a scientist, but he was also a creative scientist. But somebody really pushed him and said, well, according to the math that you're showing, everything equals something. And his response was, and I am paraphrasing, is not everything that counts should be counted. And not everything that is counted should count. And the idea behind it is not everything that we see is measurable and important. There are things that are more important than others. That goes back to the idea that if you don't own the narrative, if you don't create objectives as an executive in a company, executive could be a middle manager, it could be director of operation, doesn't matter what. If you're really not looking at the fact that your reputation depends on what you do first, and then listen to the marketplace, which could be your employees, the reviews about what's going on, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're basically burying your head in the sand and create the perfect opportunity for somebody else to come and say, I listened, therefore, here are the things that could change. And again, look at trust as a human condition, if you will, for survival. Don't look at it as I need to be trusted enough to achieve a transactional win. And that's where we are right now. There's a lot more transactional trust, meaning I only trust you to get something that I want, which leaves the relationship after as almost kind of like ungrateful. And, you told me that you like me, but you don't like me. Nobody wants to be unliked.
Yeah. That's really powerful. Thank you, Gal. I really appreciate, you for sharing your wisdom here today, because I feel like you have given us a lot to think about regarding how we lead, with integrity and how we can really gain trust.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your program.
Of course. Thank you. So, and for the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be empowered, stay aligned, and keep marketing smarter. See you next time.